All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another season of Green White Checker TV with the Dark Horse Racing Area 51 IndyCar Series. Kicking it off here tonight at Kentucky Speedway. 110 laps will be our race distance. Qualifying just getting underway now. Looks like we have about 24 drivers, I believe, taking part in this one, including our defending series champion in that 007 of Henry Bennett. So say it's going to be up to these guys to try to dethrone him, I say, because he's definitely been one on a charge this past season. So I think everybody's going to be kind of gunning for that 007 car here tonight. However, again, it's going to be a brand new season, which means we got to go through our tracks that we're going to be taking into this season. And obviously kicking off tonight here at Kentucky. Next week we'll be at Dover International Speedway. A very fast track, very difficult to pass. So it's going to make track position and pit strategy all the more important. After that we'll be at Nashville, followed by Road America, and then Homestead Miami Oval. And then we will be at Michigan International Speedway, followed by the regular season finale November 9th at Laguna Seca. And then from there, we'll have the top 8 drivers taking part in the 4-race playoff. It's going to be the 4 playoff races are going to be at Kansas Speedway. We're going to take a week off for the Thanksgiving week, and then we'll be at Phoenix, Twin Ring Motegi, and of course finishing things off at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So it's going to be a slightly shortened season this season, 11 races instead of the typical 12. That way, we try to get the season completed before the holidays. So it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be definitely a very exciting one this season. As you can see, there goes Henry Bennett after making his qualifying lap. So again, a great group of drivers. A lot of drivers back from last season. A few new names and a few new faces. So it's going to be fun to get familiar with some of those guys as well. So but we're going to have some of our regulars, though. Nick Degroot, Henry Bennett, Andrew Woods back for the full season here again. And you're going to see drivers like Matt Wagner, of course, as well, trying to take part in this one, try to see if they can knock those guys off the top. Craig Forsyth as well. Then we have a few new faces, though, so it'll be fun to see what they've got in store for us tonight. Don Reedy being one of them, Carl Henderson. Then we've also got Thaddeus McMurray and Josh Laston. So a few new faces, John DeMatteo as well. So it's going to be a great season, as I'm really looking forward to it. And, of course, also very, very pleased to have Steve Gottschalk in the booth with me again here this evening. And Steve, this is a very different type of an oval. This track drives very differently than what we're used to here at maybe the typical mile-and-a-half tracks, with the fact that turns 1 and 2, 3 and 4 drive very differently here. And that's something we need to make a mention of, is turns 1 and 2 very fast, pretty much single groove. You're going to probably want to be on the inside line through turns turns 1 and 2. You might see drivers move up a little bit just for the sake of trying to keep some clean air on the front wings of these cars. However, in 3 and 4 is going to be a much slower turn. Drivers are going to have to kind of adjust through that turn, figure out what line they want to take, figure out if and how they can make passes happen, maybe have to make some adjustments on the weight jacker, the front rear ARBs, even brake bias maybe to try to get into those turns. I don't think we'll see a lot of braking, probably just more of kind of lifting and kind of getting the engine brake to slow those cars down. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see. And fuel mileage, I believe about 33, 34 laps roughly will be the fuel window. So based on that, we would suspect it's going to be a 3-stop race, but we never know how the cautions will fall. And we always know some drivers always have some tricks up their sleeve on the fuel mileage side of things. So just one more thing for us to try to keep an eye out for tonight. So we got about 30 seconds left in qualifying, so we won't spoil who's up top right now on the front, but it's going to be definitely some of our regulars that we're used to seeing towards the front. So I think it's going to be a pretty good dogfight between those guys this evening. Again, I think track position is going to be very important here tonight, and we're going to see also, it looks like very, very close qualifying between pretty much the top 6, I believe, separated by, it looks like about 0.03 of a second. So as qualifying just finishes up right now, we'll go ahead and pull up our starting grid here in just one moment. All right, with qualifying having completed now, so we'll say we will go ahead and show that qualifying order. You see there Nick Degroot on pole position tonight by just over 100th of a second over Matt Wagner. You see 5 thousandths of a second between Matt and Henry, 4 thousandths between Henry and Andrew there, 4 thousandths between Andrew and Anders, and another 4 thousandths actually between Anders and Charles. So you can see pretty much 4 thousandths of a second between, it looks like third, fourth and fifth and sixth. Then you got Jim Brooks there in seventh, David Leclerc eighth. In ninth, you got John DeMatteo, Jim Herrick, Yari Brupacher, Craig Forsyth rounding out our top 12. We'll move a little further back. Jimmy Drynan in 13th, Jeff Highsong, AJ Hobson, Michael Spell, Jack Walls, Thaddeus McMurray, Benjamin Combs, James Ledford, Don Reedy, and then you got Carl Henderson making his series debut along with Josh Laston. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Don Reedy ran a late race last season but didn't finish up the rest of the season. So Don basically new to the league as well. So those guys opting to start from the pits here tonight. But it's going to be that number 89 of Nick Degroot leading the field here tonight.
So it kind of looks like, the front of the field looks awful familiar. It looks like the same people, sort of in the same spots, although Henry Bennett is a uncharacteristic third starting spot.
Yeah, so gotta wonder. Say Henry's gonna be wondering. It's like, oh, what happened to my qualifying lap here tonight? But I say, in all honesty, probably not too worried about that qualifying position. But yeah, you're right though. Say definitely not where you expect to see Henry. And that being said, that's third place that we're not expecting to see Henry. So yeah, so pretty impressive that's the difference. But again, it was just hundredths of a second between Nick and Matt and Henry, Andrew, Anders, and Charles. Like those guys are pretty much right on top of each other on lap time. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see what the strategies are going to be for our top drivers here tonight.
And I think we should mention that two of these new guys that you mentioned, Carl Henderson and Josh Laston, are fellow broadcasters from Ghostfire Media, which broadcasts the AOLL races that I run on Sunday nights. And these guys do a fantastic job with that.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun to see. I say it's always fun. I mean, obviously we do it as well, where we have the broadcaster's hat on for a little bit, and then we kind of go back and kind of switch over to the driver's side of things too. So it'll be fun to see kind of how they balance the two of those. So I think I even got to race with Carl and Josh last night. I believe race over at Fuel as well on Mondays. So I say they're kind of trying some leagues out. I say trying a lot of different things too. So like I said, Cup cars over with AOLL. You get the Xfinity cars at Fuel. And then here with the IR18, so say going to be a little bit of everything for those guys. So it'd be fun to see how they adjust to these very fast and very kind of twitchy, treacherous cars with these IR18s.
And you'll notice I'm up in the booth for this because this is where I belong when it comes to Indy cars.
You and me both, Steve. I'll say I'm with you there. I enjoy these cars. But yeah, they are a challenge, and saying it definitely takes a very specific type of driver to be able to wrangle these things. So as you can see, pace car's just about to duck off. That's going to hand things over to our pole sitter, Nick Degroot, Matt Wagner outside. So remember, on the initial start, it goes on green, so they can't go before that green flag flies. So now you see it is down and away, and we are underway here at Kentucky for the season opener. 110 laps will be our race distance tonight.
And did you get any idea on how many laps they can go on Fuel?
Yeah, Fuel looks like it's going to be in the 33, 34 lap range. So say if it's a green flag race, I would expect to see most likely a 3-stop strategy. Oh, as I say that, though, you see Jim Brooks washes up into Anders R, who's maybe a little bit of net code, but a big wreck here. You got Anders involved. You got looks like Craig Forsyth in it. You got David Leclerc's in there as well. I'm trying to catch who that last car is involved. I think that was it's Jim Herrick as well. And yeah, it just looked like, unfortunately, Jim maybe just got a little tight, maybe a little bit of net code as well. We'll go back and we'll take a look, but unfortunately, it's going to put us under a quick yellow here as you see the pace car working through the field here, probably scaring a lot of drivers. But we'll go back, we'll take a look at that unfortunate wreck here on lap number 1.
Yeah, I can't tell if that was net code or if that was just Anders, saw that they were going to collide and just, turned it right too far, too quickly.
Yeah, so we're going to slow it down here and take a look as they're entering turn number 3. So say see Jim Brooks there on the inside line. It looks like he actually comes up pretty quickly on Henry Bennett, and you can see from there just completely washes up. And say a little bit of note code, but I think they were going to probably make contact regardless, unfortunately. And then Anders just pushes him straight into that outside wall. And then you see behind him just nowhere for these guys to go. You see Craig actually gets into the back of David Leclerc, and then here comes also, I believe that again that was Jim Herrick that gets in the back. So it looks like pretty much a 4-car incident here, with them all kind of piling up at the exit of 4. You can see everybody just kind of all squished together there, unfortunately. A few of them had to take tows. Some were able to limp it back to the pit, so say that could be a saving grace for them as well. But yeah, just unfortunate way to start this one this evening, but we'll see. So you never know how these races will unfold. To say hopefully that gives them some opportunities to get back into the mix here as we'll jump back live. As I do need to mention, a few drivers opting to go ahead and take this caution and get some pit stops done, get some maybe a little extra fuel, and maybe try to play that fuel mileage, of course. And do need to mention Gary Corley, a big beneficiary from that caution, though. He actually had started from the pits, and saying he's somehow starting from the pits now up into that 14th position. So it may have been actually a good call by that 7-car, if unintentional, to stay away from all that trouble.
Yeah, definitely. That worked out well for him. That was just rough. I mean, people are all over the place on top of each other on starts and restarts, and those guys were very racy. You had people 3 wide from the bottom of the track to the top of the track, and unfortunately the people who were at the top, when Anders slid up into the wall, there was nothing they could do to avoid running into the car ahead of them.
Yeah, exactly right. They're just kind of committed at that point. There's just not much you can do. And so you're right, though, Steve. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast, especially on a double file restart, on the initial start, I should say, being double file. The restarts, of course, is going to be single file. I think that's going to help these guys out a little bit, spread things out just a little bit more. I think it's going to make life a little calmer for these drivers. Probably not much, but probably just a little bit.
Definitely. And I think, once we get a few laps in, things will start to string out a little bit.
And so it looks like drivers just now rolling out of the pits. I think Craig Forsyth the first to get out of pit road there. Actually, no, it looks like Anders able to jump out in front of Craig, it looks like, now that I'm looking at closer.
And I didn't check, but I would think that these guys, all as hard as they all hit, that they probably had to all use their faster pairs.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right there. So I think on the faster pair side of things, it's going to be Jim Herrick in the 40 most likely had to take a faster pair. And then, of course, with Craig Forsyth, all the drivers that had to take a tow for sure as well. So Craig Forsyth, Anders Arhus, David Leclerc, I'm sure those guys all had to as well take those faster pairs. So right now, though, so I have to double check to see if these numbers are right here. As you see Jim Brooks rolling to the back there, so I'm not sure if they kind of cause it or give EOLLs for caused cautions or not, but that might be the case on that one for the 51 car, which unfortunately, say from what we saw, it kind of looked like that was exactly what happened there. But yeah, it looks like from what I'm seeing, though, it seems like Craig's a lap up on those other guys that had to pit there. Although now that it's updating, I think now it's actually showing, now it's showing Anders ahead of Craig on the ticker. So all 3 of those drivers 2 laps down at the moment. Anders Arhus, Craig Forsyth, David Leclerc. So definitely going to have their work cut out for them.
I'm thinking if they went 2 laps down, they may have had to take a tow.
Yeah, it's the tow that put him. Yeah, the driver that was able to make out the best of all of those drivers is Jim Herrick. I say he's able to get to pit road. Obviously, he has the EOL, has to start from the back, but in the grand scheme of things, he'll be all right with that. I mean, he loses a faster pair, but he's on the lead lap. You see he's been playing the top-off game as well, just try to get a little bit of extra fuel. And, of course, going to probably have to play it a little safer now the rest of this way. But we got to jump back up front here because it's a pace car entering 3. Lights are off. So it's going to be Nick Degroot leading Matt Wagner, Henry Bennett. And the big mover on that initial lap, though, that 69 car, John DiMatteo, all the way up into that 4th position from his 9th starting spot.
Wow. Well, I'm sure he was aided a little bit by some of those guys running into each other.
Yeah, those little things never hurt at all. So, but I'll say it's going to be Nick Degroot who's going to lead the field here on this restart. And you see he is down and away. so far looks pretty clean on the restart. You see everybody giving each other plenty of room, trying to look towards the back. I think he's going to get away with that. So it's going to be Nick here. He's going to lead the field here. Of course, now you got to be careful about that. According with the draft, to say it's going to bring Matt Wagner right into the mix here. Say now you see Nick Degroot going straight to the inside line and protect that inside line in 3.
So I'm wondering if we'll start to see them playing leapfrog, or if they're just going to be content to run behind one another right now.
This is going to be a tough one. I'm not sure, because the way this track is configured, 1 and 2, I mean, I think pretty much all drivers are going to be foot to the floor here, especially through 1 and 2. But in 3 and 4, you really have to lift a little bit there, and of course you're going to want the clean air. So it's not really like in Indianapolis where you got those long straightaways and everything. So I think Nick Degroot probably going to try to play a little bit of defense, protect that inside line like you see him doing. He's going to have the short way around here through 1 and 2. And again, when you're foot to the floor, you feel like that inside line is going to be where you want to be. So it's going to be up to Matt Wagner to try to find a way to get around that 89 car.
Yep, and as we talked about last season, unfortunately, the way the draft works in these Indy cars compared to the Cup cars. In the Cup cars, the draft helps. You got 2 cars that are working together, right, one behind the other. Both of them go faster. In Indy cars, that's not the case. Only the car that's behind goes faster. His draft does not help the car in front at all. So it's not to Matt's advantage, unfortunately for him, for one of these guys to come up and try and push him by Nick Degroot, because it just won't work.
Yeah, so, and actually, you'll say for a little bit there, so you saw Matt Wagner was kind of MIA there for just a moment. So they had some connection hiccups. Now he's back. That's definitely a nerve-wracking moment. You see John DiMatteo thought about 3 wide there. He's going to roll him behind the 89 of Nick Degroot. Though now he's going to get the wake though out of the 89 car. You can see how much it just pushes that 69 up to the top there. And that's what they're going to have to figure out, is find that clean air on these cars here to try to find the max speed that they can. Oh, as I say, that caution is out. Looks like, unfortunately, I think it may have involved, the 09 of Josh Laston. Looks like he might be able to get this thing. He's going to try to limp it back to the pits. You see some left rear damage. It's going to be tricky to get it back there. We'll see if anybody else is involved. Oh, Jim Herrick also involved, Steve, I believe. We'll see if it's repairable or not. But that could be the end of the night for that 40 car. So we'll try to find exactly what happened. It looks like I said, I think between possibly Josh and Jim. Let's go back. We'll take a look, see if we can find it.
Josh just lost it coming off of 4.
Yeah, so we're watching Josh here. Yeah, you can already see the back end stepping out, and yeah, just unfortunately for Jim Herrick, just the wrong place at the wrong time. Tried to avoid him, just catches the left rear, I should say. And yeah, unfortunately, that's going to loop those 2 around. So it looks like just a 2-car incident there. But yeah, like I said, I feel like that's going to probably force fast repair for Josh Laston, Jim Herrick, because he might be in a tougher spot. And that's the thing again. I mean, these cars, they drive so differently, Steven. That's again, there's so many adjustments you can make to these cars as well. With the weight jackers, with the ARBs, let's say maybe just went a little too aggressive on the adjustments there, and that may have put him in a bad spot. So that being said, though, back under yellow, got some mixed strategy here, Steve. Looks like Charles Teed, he's going to lead the field for those that do pit. He was around the top 5, so he's going to be the first one to pit here. We'll see if he does tires and fuel, or maybe just a splash to go. He's going to take tires. He's brought a handful of drivers, about, I'd say, 8 to 10 with him, including AJ Hobson, Yari Brupacher, Jack Walls. So say kind of about the top, looks like about 12th on back here, hitting pit road.
And one thing that you didn't see there, Gael, Anders Larhus at the same time that Josh Laston was losing it, so was Anders Larhus several cars back, and was lucky. He just took a sideways slide, and nobody ran into him, and he didn't hit the wall.
Yeah, it's a good break. I say that caution. Then yeah, like you said, a really big break for Anders there. I believe beneficiary of that caution is going to be Craig Forsyth. He was able to be the first of those cars 2 laps down, so he's going to cycle back now to just 1 down in that number 27 machine. Right now, Josh Laston's still sitting in the pits. I think Josh had to take a tow, unfortunately. So I'd say that's probably going to drop him to probably about that 2-lap down that David and Anders are sitting at as well. So if you're Craig Forsyth, you're probably feeling pretty good because you might become the only driver 1 lap down here, which again, kind of just keep that car clean and be able to get that lucky dog position. The next timer, as you see, he's going to go ahead and duck in here, get some service done to that 27 car. I'll say Don Reedy, he decided to jump in as well in that number 00 car. So that's a little bit of mixed strategy. So that's going to move Charles T now up to 11th, and he will be the first car to have made a pit stop under that yellow here. Now down, basically probably cost him about, I'd say 5-6 spots, but now has about 10 to 11 laps more fuel than those guys in front of him.
So it looks like, did Craig Forsyth get the wave around?
Yes, yeah. So he went from 2 down to 1 now at that wave round. And I believe Jim Herrick actually, he's back out on track. We'll see if the repairs were enough to get him, make that car be drivable. I think with the repairs, I think that put Jim back to 1 lap down as well. So actually, it's going to be Jim Herrick and Craig Forsyth fighting for that lucky dog now between the two of them. So let's say that's going to be the next battle here. And the only thing for Craig, of course, is he'll have to fall to the back of the line there with him being the lucky dog. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. You never know if, obviously, on the strategy, maybe a quick caution that could actually be the benefit for Jim Herrick. So we'll have to wait and see there. And now, again, it's 2 strategies here, Steve. I'll say we got the top 10 cars have yet to pit. Gary Corley, again, started from the pits, now in the top 10 in that 7 car, 16 spots gained. So definitely starting from the pits, so far so good for Gary, but we're going to say that his luck's going to run out, though, Steve, because I've been a very bad commentator's curse announcer, so it's a mediocre run for Gary right now, I'd say.
Yeah, probably. I think you probably just cursed him. I noticed that Anders Arhus chose not to pit. And I'm not sure why. I mean, if I'd have gone for a slide like he did, and I was that loose, I think I probably would have pitted and got fresh tires.
Yeah, I would lean the same as you, Steve. I don't think there's any tire limitations with the Indy series here. So I agree with you there. I think that would have been an ideal approach. You see, driver, who was that sneaking on by there trying to get track position? So I got a little sketchy there. So I couldn't tell what car that was working his way towards the front there. Let's say it definitely caught my attention. Got a little nervous there with everything.
Yeah, I saw he came flying up.
Now he's rolling back. So, however, we're going to jump now back again to our race leader here in the 89. Let's say it's still Nick Degroot, Matt Wagner. They've held that top 2 since the start here. As we're going to restart this one, coming to lap number 16 again. Race distance is going to be 110. So we still got lots of time left in this one.
That was Josh Laston, by the way, a rookie. That was a rookie mistake.
Oh, you hate to see it. All right, that's going to be Nick Degroot again. He has control of this restart. Then everybody else has to try to react, and he gets a really good jump on Matt Wagner there. You can see he gets a couple of car lengths right off the kick. But it looks like everybody behind him gets a pretty good reaction. You see John DiMatteo not that far behind Matt Wagner. And saying Henry Bennett will be the next one in line there in that 007. So now it's, again, just try to pull the draft, try to gain as much time as you can before you hit turn number 3. See if you can make a move early. They see Matt Wagner again going straight to the middle groove here, try to keep that clean air on the front wing of that 11 car. So you got Jimmy Drine and Andrew Wood fighting for position. Looks like Andrew's going to hold on to it for the moment here. That's also bringing Jeff Heisong right into the mix as well. Let's say I'm trying to keep an eye on a couple things because I say Nick Degroot, Matt Wagner, that battle's gotten really close again as well between the two of them. And so you can see again John DiMatteo wasting no time right back on the rear wing of these guys.
Yeah, from what I've seen, he seems to be driving the most aggressively thus far. No, I mean maybe Matt Wagner also, who just disappeared again. And Henry Bennett, I think, is just kind of hanging out back there, letting these guys race.
And I say that's the thing is, I say when you see someone like Henry doing what he's doing right now, just kind of cruising. That's when, at least for me, that's when I start second guessing what my strategy is, because it's like, all right, Henry's really just kind of in a ride mode right now. It's like, what does he know that maybe I don't realize, kind of a thing. So But you're right. I mean, right now Henry's got a couple of car lengths between himself and John, but he's also got a couple tenths in front of Jimmy Dryden, so he's in a nice little comfortable window here. So yes, I mean, he's doing exactly what he needs to do. We'll jump back to Charles Teed. He's gotten around Jim Brooks, so he's moved up a spot into the top 10, now trying to work over Gary Corley. Again, Charles is one of those drivers, the first driver that made that pit stop there a few laps ago. So again, he's got about 10 more laps than these guys around him. So once we do get to that pit window, which at this point, probably another 20 laps, I would say, we'll see if that changes any strategies potentially. Maybe when Charles pitted there, maybe puts him in that 2-stop window instead of a potential 3-stopper.
And John Mateo just went low on Matt Wagner and was able to get by him. So that strategy of oh boy, he just jumped underneath Nick Degroot.
Yeah, it's a big move by John there. So you saw Nick kind of blocking the inside, not all the way to the yellow line, and that was all the opportunity John needed. He's going to lead that lap there. So move now John DiMatteo to the lead here ahead of Nick Degroot. You see now Henry Bennett, he's jumped into that 3rd position as well. So I say it might be a little bit of a hesitation for Matt Wagner with that connectivity issues that we've seen a little bit from him. I think that's maybe what's forcing him to run that little bit higher line, maybe try to play a little bit protective, not trying to hurt anybody's race here in that 11 car as well. So that being said, though, looks like he's going to hold on now to that 3rd spot.
Yeah, the top, let's see, 5, 6, 7, looks like the top 8 are all kind of right on top of each other right now.
Yeah, so actually Jim Brooks got back around Charles Teed for that top 10 spot, so move Charles now back to the 11th spot. And I say coming up with him here is AJ Hobson, Jack Walls. Again, these guys all pitted as well, so I say those guys that pitted there are now right together here, 11th, 12th, and 13th position. But yeah, saying still got some really good battling now as well. We got Matt Wagner, Henry Bennett again side by side here down the backstretch.
And while they were doing that,
and then Nick Degroot,
Yep, he jumped under John DiMatteo and took the lead back.
So yeah, so I say these guys are racing hard, but definitely giving room, it looks like so far. So that's really what you want to see. You saw John there. I think he tried to kind of get a really good exit out of turn number 2 there. Almost caught the apron, but able to hang on to it there. So, but yeah, it's definitely getting a little dicey here. As you see Jimmy Dryden and Andrew Wood. Now they battle for that 5th position, I believe it is, between the two of them. Right now, Andrew has it, and I think he's going to have the preferred lane here in turn number 1.
Yeah, the inside line definitely has an advantage tonight in both turns.
I think one thing, I talked to some drivers and I felt like there was pretty decent tire fall off, so that's going to be another one to keep an eye on as well, as to see what that tire fall off is going to be. As now we're watching Jeff Heisong, Thaddeus McMurray, these two battling right behind that 99 of Jimmy Dryden. But I heard there was pretty decent tire fall off, so I'm going to be watching that as well, as Charles Teed trying to get a 2-for-1 here, working over Jim, trying to get Gary as well. But you can see what's happening though right now for Gary's when he's on the inside line, nobody's running that low line, so he has no draft down the backstretch. I think that's what's promoting Jim to be able to pull back ahead of that number 50 car. So right now, say it's kind of trying to pick and choose what lane you want to be in certain turns. It seems like low line 1 and 2 is better, but then you really need to be able to clear yourself and get to the top on the backstretch to get that draft down the back.
And John DiMatteo he's just gone by on the inside going into 3 and 4, so he took the lead back.
Yeah, I say it's not really the leapfrog we talked about like at Indianapolis, but yeah, these guys definitely kind of switching back and forth right now. So good battling between these top 2. You still have the top 4 right on lock with one another. And we talked about, Steve, there's going to be probably some new names, some new faces battling hard for this almost contact between the two of them there nearing 3. But say we might see some new names, new faces battling for these races, and John DiMatteo is one of those. Let's say he's relatively, I think, new to the league, but he is showing he's going to have some potential. These guys are going to have to try to get around him if they want to win these races as well. So I think definitely notice has been served to Nick, Matt, Henry, Andrew, and company, because he's right now up front and say obviously fighting hard to try to keep this lead.
And I think Henry may have backed off a little bit when he saw it was when Nick had to back off, and Matt Wagner was able to get past him on the outside.
Yeah, so that moves Matt back into that third position. So, but again, I feel like a few of these drivers might be playing a little bit of strategy here. I do wonder if even these guys that didn't stop, maybe these cautions at the beginning, is it enough to put them in a window where they could also potentially go on a two-stop strategy? Because normally they'd be pitting in the next lap or two under green, but we've had a couple yellows here already, Steve, and that we know how much fuel these guys can save under yellow. So you wonder. And I feel like they can probably go into the mid upper 30s, I should say, now for the next pit, or for the first pit stop, I should say. And then again, that would then allow Charles Teed and company to be able to take over those positions. So we'll say right now, let's say we're still green, but let's say that's going to be the next thing. Oh, actually, it's showing Charles Teed gone off track. Looks like he's doing a little bit off-roading, saves it. We'll stay green here. We'll try to take a look, see what happened to Charles there, but he's able to hang on to that car. As you watch him come out of turn number 4 here, just gets real loose on the throttle. We saw that a little earlier, just got loose there, but is able to hang on to it. So great hands by that number 50.
It's interesting. I don't remember the last time we were here, people having trouble with loose off of 4.
Well, I think for Charles, I think he was so pinned to the inside, had probably more wheel than he wanted to have. So. But he's able to hang on to. Unfortunately, obviously, as you can see, he loses a lot of track position now, back to 17th position. So say he's going to want something to go his way to bring him back into the mix. But what that does do, though, now is it promotes AJ Hobson to be the first car that pitted under that caution. So we'll have to keep an eye and see how far AJ can go under this green flag run if we get to that pit stop window. And that's the next. Oh, actually, I see one hitting pit road now, I believe, or is that a driver that's off pace? Let me see who that. Oh, it's the 48 of James Ledford. I think he was a lap down already, who hit pit road. And that's gonna be the next thing, Steve. Is pit road is very difficult. I noticed to get onto. Again, these cars are terrible when you kind of have to do the differentiation between the banking and the flat. So these drivers are gonna hopefully have got some practice in to hit their pit stops here.
And you had mentioned tire wear playing a role. I noticed that these guys are starting to get a little bit more gap between one another up at the front. And not too long ago, John DiMatteo had pulled away to probably about a 10-car length lead. But Nick Degroot, I guess, decided to get back on it and he caught him, but now he lost some speed in turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're seeing right now also is with that tire wear. I think the clean air going to be all that much more important, as well as, like I said, probably able to get to him, then just can't do anything with him once he gets there. But it's just like we talked about, Steve, though, those cautions. You can see we're on lap 38, yet to see anybody hit pit road here with our lead group that have yet to pit. And again, they all stay out here. So again, it looks like they're going to be able to get to about at least a lap 40 mark. So it's going to be very interesting to see what these fuel windows are going to be looking like, because these guys have done a great job saving under yellow, but also that top 6, they've really stretched themselves out from now Jimmy Drynan in that 7th position. They got about 2 seconds over him in that 99 car.
John DiMatteo just keyed up. I think he's pitting.
So yeah, here he comes. Oh, you see a little... Oh, yep, big slide. He's going to try to catch it. So, yeah, he's going to back straight back into the pits to avoid bringing out a yellow. That's a good heads up by him. Unfortunately, we'll see if that's... I don't think it's going to be a pit penalty for him. We'll have to double check on that one, but unfortunately, it's going to cost him a ton of track position. And that's exactly what we just talked about, Steve, how difficult pit road entry was. So now those guys, I can say, it looks like Nick Degroot, he's going to be next on to pit road. Say, while we're trying to watch him, there we go. It looks like a clean entry for Nick here. And that's going to now promote Matt Wagner to the point in that 11 car.
And I'm keeping an eye on, John DiMatteo did not have a penalty unless he has to do a pass-through. I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, so here comes Matt Wagner. He's going to hit pit road now in the 11. And also a good entry for him. Looks like he's going to have a nice clean entry. So that's going to move now Henry Bennett to the point with Andrew Wood. Something that I'm surprised we haven't seen earlier this race with these two running 1-2. I think we'll be seeing it throughout the course of the season. These two are going to definitely be ones to beat. But yeah, like I mentioned, though, with some of the separation that we saw, this is really maybe hurting those drivers that topped off under that yellow, because they've lost a couple of seconds to these guys. But here goes Henry, here goes Andrew, stretching that field number again, Steve, all the way up now up to lap 43.
And Di Matteo did not get penalized, which I'm surprised because I thought that was going to be an unsafe pit entry.
Yeah, I think he had to make sure he got in before the cone, I believe. As I said, here comes Henry Bennett. He's also going to bring Jeff Heisong along with him. Great pit stops by the two of them. Looks like nice, clean entries. So that's going to now promote Andrew Wood to the front. Again, Andrew actually now stretching the furthest of anybody who had yet to pit here. So he's working on trying to go 45 laps here on a tank of fuel. Of course, aided by a couple of yellows. But I say that's going to be some big fuel numbers for that 64 cars. It looks like, yep, here comes Andrew as well. And also, so far, so good. Yep, looks like a clean stop for him. And that's going to now jump AJ Hobson into the lead in that 4 car. It's a really good-looking car, too, that blue, white, and orange paint scheme on that number 4. I think the best part here, Steve, for AJ is he's got breathing room. He's got a little bit of space between himself and Jack Walls. He's got some space between himself and Jim Brooks in front of him. So right now he can just kind of focus in front of him and just run laps here. And again, just probably try to stretch this run as long as he can before he hits pit road, because right now he's got a lot of cars. Right now, 9 cars, or should I say 8 cars on the lead lap, 9th on back, 1 lap down right now. So it's definitely what he's looking for.
And these, the guys that are on the lead lap right now, are they all the ones that topped off on the last caution?
Yeah, exactly right. Everybody here that's out right now pitted on lap number 12. So these guys are trying to run these as far as they can, I believe. Because like I said, if they catch a timely caution, they're going to have the whole field here, except for about now 7 cars, 1 lap down. So, I mean, it's definitely a great opportunity for these guys.
So what they're wishing is that a caution will come out sometime between now and 10 laps from now when they have to pit.
Yeah, I mean, I say if a caution comes out before they have to make their pit stop, they'll be very happy with that. Of course, the other potentials, if a caution comes out, I think, or I should say actually that maybe that it stays green. Maybe that could be the opportunity for them to have to do that one less pit stop potentially. So it's going to be interesting to see. As you see, Michael Spell, Yari Brupacher, they're fighting hard here for the 2nd position. And do you need to mention right now the first car one down? Craig Forsyth, he also pitted under that caution. So right now he's just kind of cruising with these guys. I think, again, also trying to save every ounce of fuel in that 27 car. Because, again, if a caution comes out, it wouldn't be a Nick Degroot, Matt Wagner getting lucky dog. It would be Craig Forsyth in that 27 car, as he's ahead of all these guys with their pit stop cycles.
That's a very good observation, Kyle.
That's what I'm here for, Steve. But yeah, so right now that leaves 4 cars on the lead lap. Hobson, Spell, Brupacher, and Teed. So obviously we saw Teed go for that little bit of off-road excursion, but so far he's been able to survive it. But now here comes that 4 of AJ Hobson pitting on lap number 50. It looks like he's going to bring another with him in there, Yari Brupacher. That's going to promote Michael Spell now to the point on lap number 51.
And I would note that Carl Henderson just pitted, and let's see, I think he's managing to stay 1 lap down. He had been with that group that had topped off at lap 12, so he was the first of them to pit, I think.
So right now, Steve, if you're Craig Forsyth, you are throwing everything you've got for a caution right now, because right now he's basically 2nd on track as they run here. And let's say, so he's trying, hoping that maybe he can get a yellow, because he would actually then cycle through on the lead lap, and right now actually showing as our race leader in that 27 car. Again, still has to make a pit stop. So only got the guys behind him but just a couple of seconds, like Matt Wagner and Nick Degroot. So say Craig right now rooting for someone to make a mistake and bring out the yellow for him.
Let's compare the lap times. Craig is running, he ran at 20. Oh, here's pitting.
As I am. Unfortunately, here he comes. So that's going to cycle to the lead. Actually, after the pit stop cycles, it's going to be Matt Wagner, Steve, who's got the lead over Nick Degroot, Henry Bennett there in 3rd, Andrew Wood in 4th, and it looks like Jeff Heisong holding solid in 5th. So after the pit stop cycle, it's now a 5-car lead pack with these guys. Unfortunate that pit mistake we saw from John DiMatteo, that's dropped him to 6th position, about 6 seconds off of these guys. So unfortunately, that just shows how much of a mistake that played. And actually, you see too, right with AJ Hobson as well in that 4 car, who again, he was one of the later pitters who had the caution pit stop. So he again, but the thing about that, Steve, though, is he went to lap number 50, whereas we saw Andrew Wood, he was able to stretch it all the way to 44, so only a 6-lap difference between those two drivers.
Okay, so what was the most laps that somebody did from the beginning of the race?
I believe that will be, yeah, that'll be Andrew Wood pitting at 44. But again, you have to count for the 2 yellows for that as well. But yeah, so he went 44 laps from the start of the race, accounting for those 2 cautions though as well.
Okay, so let's see. He went 44 laps. It's a 110 lap race. Doing math.
Good luck. I'll let you do that yourself.
66 laps. I mean, all he has to do is 33 and 33. So he could potentially make it on one more stop.
And I'm saying right now, if you watch him right now, he's just kind of, I think, in cruise control behind Henry Bennett and Nick Degroot. And you wonder also, are these guys all saving? Because you see Matt Wagner, he's kind of just setting the pace on these guys. They're not very close to him. So you wonder if they're just all kind of probably running a very lean fuel mixture, probably thinking the exact same thing that you are, Steve. Hey, if we save, we can make it on one more stop. Whereas right now, Matt Wagner's thinking, well, hey, I got the track position on these guys. I want to hold this lead. He might be running a little richer than those guys. Although the one thing he does have going for him is you look right in front of him, you've got Charles Teed in that 50 car. Charles pitted on lap number 50, so you know Charles has more fuel than you do. If you're that 11 car, maybe you just kind of tow onto the back of that 50, save fuel as well to make sure that they can't beat you at their own game.
That's what I would do. And I almost wonder, if Matt is backing off a little bit based on what the people behind him are doing.
It's possible. As you see, actually, Nick Degroot, he's let Henry Bennett, Andrew Wood go on by there. So I think that might also kind of show, although I don't think Nick can save that much fuel, Steve, because he pitted on lap number 40, unless maybe what he's trying to do is he's maybe trying to save to kind of offset what Henry and Andrew were able to gain on him. So yeah, a lot of gamesmanship going on. But what we'll do real quick, though, is before we get to that point, let's run through the field here real quick, Steve. So right now you got Matt Wagner in the lead in that number 11 car after the pit stop cycle's completed. Behind him, Henry Bennett, our defending series champion in that 007. Andrew Wood in 3rd. Then you got Nick Degroot in that 4th position in that lead draft. And then Jeff Heisung, the 5th car in this draft group as well. So right now those top 5 have broken away from 6 on back by about 7 seconds, which is now in the hands of AJ Hobson. As I said, Steve, caution is out. And it looks like it was John DiMatteo. Not sure how it happened, but unfortunate for John, looks like he does bring out the yellow, so that's going to completely change the strategy here.
Wow. It looks like, I guess that was off of 2. It looks like he just had somebody that was underneath him, and maybe he thought they were going to collide, or maybe it was netcode, but his car wiggled. He got up into the loose stuff, and away it went.
Yeah, I think I see exactly what you're talking about, Steve. It was the battle for position between himself and the 4 of AJ Hobson, who we just talked about. And I think you're exactly right, as he was trying to make that late apex into turn number 1, and they got maybe spotter called Carlo just at the wrong time. You can see, I think that probably spooked him a little bit. He, like I said, kind of straightened up the wheel, tried to jump back to the top. But as soon as it did that, you see the car just kind of sliding through the turn. And then as well, so you can see it start to break loose again off of 2, and he just kind of turns the wheel straight to the right to avoid hitting anybody. And honestly, I mean, I think he takes himself out to try to spare the rest of the field there. So kind of, I say it's unfortunate for John there, but I think a kind of a class act move there to try to not affect the outcome of others' races. So we'll get back to live viewing here, because I believe pit stops are underway. and actually a little bit of a mixed bag. Looks like a few staying out, actually. But you see right there, though, the big beneficiary, though, Steve, is the 27 Craig Forsyth. I was trying to mention is Matt Wagner stays out, but it looks like Andrew Wood on back opted to go ahead and pit. That's going to leave 3 cars that did not pit: Matt Wagner, Henry Bennett, and AJ Hobson.
I suppose the reason that these guys decided to stay out is when you're low on fuel, even with old tires, you can generally be competitive with guys that have fresh tires and full tanks, and they must think that they can make it on one more stop. Otherwise, it makes no sense that they'd stay out.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking too, Steve. Is at this point they must feel like with this caution, this is going to put them in the window where they can make it to the end. As you can see, it looks like they still stay out, so it's going to be those top 3. The one driver I feel like this isn't a bad call for sure is AJ Hobson. Again, he pitted at lap number 50. So, I mean, he already has about 7 to 9 laps advantage over Henry Matt, who pitted on 43 and 41. But now you're going to have Andrew Wood with 12 laps advantage over him and 20 laps advantage over Matt and Henry. So it's a risky call, but yeah, we'll have to see. So the only thing I can think of as well is maybe that's where they opted to go ahead and stay out to trap some of those guys a lap down, prevent them from getting one of those laps back to put them back in the race. Just trying to keep that competition a lap or more down. Yeah,
I could see that, although you still have 16 cars on the lead lap, so I'm not sure how valuable that is. If it had just been Matt that did it, I probably would have said I think he made a mistake. That's going to kill me for this one. but Henry Bennett did the same thing, so I have to think that, these two guys... Henry Bennett's pitting. No, he's not.
Yeah, I'll say maybe. You had to jump back live, Steve. That's what's going on.
Oh, sorry.
I was like, wait, what's going on? Yeah, I know exactly. I saw what you're talking about that lap before, but yeah, you're right though. It's going to be interesting because all those guys that pitted, like we did talk about, that sounds like there is some tire wear with these cars. So, will that play a role in it, or is the cleaner enough to offset it? But then again, like I said, I mean, if you're Henry or AJ, you're not going to have the clean air unless you can get around Matt. So one of these guys is going to not be where they want to be with the clean air and everything like that as we get the 1 to go here. And again, we're going to restart with 45 to go, Steve. We talked about so basically for Matt and for Henry and for AJ, we're going to say they need to go safely to make it to the end. We're going to say they need to go probably about 13 more laps or so?
13 laps under caution?
No. Sorry. If they pit in 13 laps, basically if they can pit with about 30, let's say 33 to go, to feel comfortable that they can make it from there to the end.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
All right. So basically, we're going to restart here with 45 to go. So that gives them basically 12 laps, ideally, until they have to make a pit stop. But I mean, that's just really hoping for this thing to stay green. Because I mean, if there's a caution, they're trapped a lap down. I mean, there's no question about it. So it's a very risky gamble by Matt, Henry, and AJ here. I mean, again, for AJ, he can probably go, I'd say, a little bit more than them. Again, roughly, of course, about 7 to 9 laps more. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see here. So we'll see how the strategy is gonna play out. Top 3 again did not pit under this caution flag. Andrew Wood, the first of those to go ahead and hit pit road. So we'll see what these guys have in store for us with 45 laps to go here at the line.
Okay, so I know that some of his laps were caution, but how many laps did Andrew Wood go on that first run?
I believe you're spot on the number there. It was 46 laps if I remember correctly. So that is a good point, Steve. So we'll see. But you see Matt is down and away. Those top 3 have gotten a great breakaway. Looks like Nick Degroot I think maybe AJ Hobson Andrew Wood maybe caught sleep in there on that restart. That's going to separate themselves already by about 1.3, 1.4 seconds. So I think that's a good start for these guys because that's going to give them a little bit of breathing room right off the bat.
I bet Andrew Wood he had his engine map wrong.
Oh, he was probably still in you might be right. May have been under the caution fuel map, but when it was time to go, that's a very good point, Steve. And I got to mention AJ Hobson. He's gotten around Henry Bennett for that second spot. And again, AJ, he can go further than the rest of these two. So let's say this could be a good position here for that 4 car if everything kind of lines up correctly for him. Or is Henry using AJ right now as draft?
That could be. Because, let's face it, without a lot of help, Henry Bennett and Matt Wagner cannot make it to the end.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see Matt really high off the exit there out of turn number 4 here. That's letting AJ just close in that little bit more, as right now these top 3 are separated by just a couple tenths of a second. Still about a second and a half for Nick Degroot. But here's a big benefit for Nick, though, as you see that 69 car, John DeMatteo. He just came out of the pits in between these guys. That's going to give that 89 car a little bit of extra draft to try to close the gap on those top 3. So I think that's actually that lap car is going to prove to be a pretty big bonus for Nick here and for Andrew, as you see Andrew gets back around that 89 car.
Okay, so here's some thoughts. If there's another caution, I think that from Andrew Wood on back, everybody that pitted on this last caution, I think they stay out, and I think they can then make it to the end without having to pit. So these guys are going to end up in the lead. I'd say no matter what happens. That's my guess.
At this point, I don't think anybody can make it to the end, but maybe if someone tries a splash of fuel at the end, maybe a really quick stop or something like that. But I think right now nobody can make it all the way to the finish of this race. But I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. We've seen drivers make some big fuel savings. But I mean, we mentioned that I think it was the 46 laps that Andrew Wood was able to do. That included 2 yellows. So right now, we can say we restarted with 45 to go. So it's going to be interesting to see. But right now, though, we're coming around to 38 to go. So again, for me to feel safe for Matt Wagner, I think he needs to try to go 5 more laps before he hits pit road on that 11 car.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you're right that if it stays green the rest of the way, they're all going to have to pit. But if I'm the guys, if I'm Andrew Wood and everybody behind him, I'm just going to go as far as I can and take a splash.
Yeah, and then that's all, of course, going to depend on tire wear as well. So the other drivers to watch here a little further back, though, Charles Teed, he pitted at lap number. He basically pitted a lap later than the leaders. Same thing for Craig Forsyth with being the lucky dog as well. So you had to watch these guys as well to see what their field numbers are. And I'm saying also Carl Henderson, we talked about him in the 42 car. I say he pitted on 62, but I say you wonder. You see right here, I don't really think he's showing full pace out of that car. Might be trying to run real lean as well to run a pretty big field number also. Because even they don't have to get to the end of the race, Steve. If a caution comes out at the right time, they could trap the whole field maybe a lap or more down. So it's going to be very interesting to see Jack Wells, Gary Corley fighting for 11th and 12th. And just in front of them, you got Jim Brooks, Michael Spell also fighting to try to be that first car in the top 10 here. So there's a couple battles going on throughout the track.
I'm really curious what Andrew Wood's fuel situation is. I think he's pushing it a little harder right now because he knows he can't make it.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued, but here's what's going on, Steve, though. We're at 34 to go, so Matt Wagner, he might be right on the number, Steve, because if he pits now, he'd be pitting at 33 to go. So we'll be having to watch him. We'll be having to watch Jim Brooks, Status McMurray's. As I were just watching this battle here between the 88, the 51, now the 37. They just got around him. We're going to jump back. But yeah, look, Matt, he's still going here, Steve. So he's got the fuel now. It is a one-stop race, but again, just the risk is going to be if a caution comes out between when he pits and when the rest of the field has to pit. That's going to be the danger zone, and it's going to be about a 20-lap window roughly between when he pits and when the rest of the field will have to pit if they choose to.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to have to pit pretty soon.
Yeah, here he comes now.
Nice entry.
Yeah, very good entry there, especially with traffic right on his heels. So this is most likely Matt Wagner's final scheduled stop of the race, coming in at 32 to go. Should be good to go to the end with that, but again, he's going to get put a lap down here, so I'll say this is where you start to get a little nervous if you're that 11 car, looking to see if anybody is one down here. We're going to watch the ticker here on the left. And right now, Jim Herrick is one down in the 40 machine. As you can see, Matt still in the pits as the 4 car goes around him now. And 83 of Jack Walls, he's just hit pit road as well. Surprised to see Jack already, and I thought he would stretch it a little further, but he's going for an alternate strategy, I have a feeling, in the 83 car. But right now, though, it's A.J. Hobson leading the way. But look who's up to second, though, Steve. You just mentioned Andrew Wood. Looks like he's starting to turn the wick up a little.
Definitely. Although if I'm Andrew Wood, I'm going to use A.J. Hobson for his draft because I know he has to pit very soon. And there's no point in wasting my fuel trying to pass him because I'm going to get past him anyway.
And I was saying, remember I was talking about Jack Wall, Steve, fuel only for that 83 car is a 4.5 second stop compared to an 8-second stop for the 11 of Matt Wagner. And actually, just mentioned Henry Bennett. He just hit pit road there. So here comes Henry for his final scheduled stop as well. So let's say it's all starting to kick off for those that did not pit. The last of those to pit is going to be the 4 of AJ Hobbs, but again, he had about 8 laps advantage over those guys, so he can probably go a few more should he choose to, but he has got all sorts of pressure over him by Andrew Wood.
So you're basically looking at a 4-second difference between just topping off and taking tires, and actually it'll probably be even a greater, it'll probably be less than 4 seconds for Andrew Wood because he's probably just going to have to take a splash.
Yeah, and that's what, it just depends on what Andrew's going to do here, because right now you see he's going to try to take the point. So I think Andrew's kind of going for the opposite strategy. I think he's, again, you never know on a caution. So I think if you're these guys up front who pitted there under that caution, I think they got to run this out as far as they can as Andrew Wood takes over the lead here. So I believe the 10, Anders Arhus, has had a moment, but he's off track, so I think we'll stay green here. So I'll say that's going to be a break for those guys that have already made their pit stops. But definitely, I'll say definitely a moment from some of those drivers, probably kind of one of those hearts in their throats, kind of a moment there.
He's had a rough night tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, not the night Anders was looking for. I say right off the bat, I say it wasn't of his own doing either. So just unfortunately, just never had the opportunity to rebound back from it. So, but right now though, you can see you got pretty much a 4-car battle up front here. You've got Andrew, AJ, Nick, and Jeff in the top 4. But not too far behind him, Steve. We haven't talked about him much tonight, but Jari Brubacher, he won last season. He's sitting right there in that top 5. Jim Brooks, to say, obviously had a rough start to his race with the contact with Anders Arhus. He's worked his way up into that 6th position on that same pit strategy as these guys up in front of him.
I'm showing him in 5th and Jeff Hyson in 4th. So, these guys are pretty fast, but not always up front. So this could work out really well for the two of them.
Yeah, so now it's going to be really, like I said, all about pit strategy right now, say, because at the moment, so say the guys that pitted, the only one that's made a pit stop was that fuel-only stop by Jack Walls, and saying it didn't work out perfect. I mean, he was already lost a lot of track position from those guys up front, but one thing that we do see, though, is we got Matt Wagner, Henry Bennett, they're right with one another here. So if they can start making speed, as I said, here comes AJ Hobson. He's making his final scheduled stop at 23 to go. So again, he could go a little further than those guys. So now it's going to be, where does AJ come out in relation to Matt and Harry? That's going to be a very big telltale, I think, to see what the rest of these guys in the field here need to do.
And I think Andrew Wood is probably going to have to pit somewhere around lap 96 to 99. So another 7.
About 10-15 to go then, right?
Yeah. That's what I think.
Okay. So I'm going to see, too, as I said, I want to see where AJ Hobson, he's just now leaving pit road here. We're going to see, I think we're going to see that 11 and the 007 swing on by him. There they go right here. And we'll see. I don't think he's going to be able to pick up the toe of these guys, but I do need to mention lap times, though. Matt Wagner, 39.17 for Matt Wagner. It was a 40.63. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong lap times there. 24.75 for Matt Wagner, 25.02 for Andrew Wood. So Matt a little quicker the last time by. So again, if Matt, that short pit, maybe Matt's gaining time over these leaders. Could that be enough? Say that might be kind of the undercut, if you will, for those familiar with Formula One. Pitting early maybe gains you time on these leaders.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, in 10 laps, he would pick up 3 seconds at that pace.
Yeah, I said this time I was a 25 flat for Andrew Wood, 24.80 for Matt Wagner, now 24.95. So not a big gain, but 5/100ths of a second. So I mean, every little bit's going to count for sure. So this is going to get very interesting. If we stay green, this fight for the win for the lead is going to be very interesting, as it looks like Jim Brooks, he's hit pit road for his final scheduled stop at 19 to go. So we'll see where Jim cycles out in relation. But we need to mention Henry Bennett now battling with Matt Wagner. So if these guys get to fighting each other, that's going to slow the two of them down. Could be exactly what Andrew and Nick need to have happen to get them back towards the front.
Andrew just ran a 24.935 the last lap. Let's see, 24.910 on this one.
Yeah, as he's picking up the pace, I think he knows. We'll see what Matt and Henry. So 24.74, 24.83 for Henry and Matt that last time around. Waiting for it to update. But I believe, I think we have a car having some troubles. Not sure if it's off track or not. I think it's Carl Henderson. Trying to find him on my ticker here. Oh yeah, he's down on the apron. I think he'll get away with that as well. So I think that'll prevent a yellow here. Unfortunate though for Carl, but he's got to be careful because he's going to have the leaders coming up on him with a big head of steam here out of turn number 2. Looks like Carl's going to stay low here, stay out of the way. So again, these guys that pitted, like I said, they need this to go green, and so far they're catching the breaks they need.
That's a shame because Carl was hanging on to that lead lap.
Yeah, so again, the two drivers we haven't talked about. Actually, no, I need to mention, I'm sorry, Craig Forsyth. He has hit pit road as well. I was wondering if he might try to stretch it. He has pitted as well in that 27 machine, so he's made his final stop. We mentioned Jim Brooks already making his stop, and I believe Jim's... Yeah, he's a couple seconds off of AJ right now. However, AJ's catching these guys, Steve. He's gotten to about a second off of Matt Wagner, and he's got about... looks like about 6 to 9 lap fresher tires on those guys. Could that come into play here?
I think it definitely could. Boy, we're getting close to pit time for these guys up front.
Yeah, and Andrew, I think, is giving it everything. They're inches off the wall there out of turn number 4. I think he's trying to get every ounce of speed he can out of that 64 car. So I think what's going to win or lose this race is going to be your pit in and your pit out laps. So far, it looks like pretty much everybody's opting to go ahead and do the 4 tire stop. As here comes Andrew Wood, Steve.
All right, let's see how fast this pit stop is.
He's bringing in Jeff Heisong as well with him. It looks like Jeff gained just a little bit of time on that pit entry. That's going to be crucial for Jeff to be in this fight as well. So right now we've got these 2 cars hitting pit road. That's going to leave now Nick Degroot. Now, I haven't talked about Gary Corley much as well. Actually, let me see. I see something with AJ Hobson. Caution is out, Steve. AJ Hobson brings out the caution during the pit stop cycle. Nick Degroot has still stayed out. Gary Corley was just about to pit. It looks like he stays out. Michael Spell, Charles Teed. This is going to change everything here, Steve. Caution, 12 to go.
And I'm pretty sure I saw these guys change tires.
So let's see if we can find out what happened here to AJ Hobson. Oh, it's already happened in front. So let me go back a little further here. It's like we talked about before, Steve. I think he just gets loose on the low side here. And, I'm sorry. He catches the yellow line, and that starts to unsettle the car. And you can see from there, I think he's just trying to catch it. But you can see it just continuing to step out on them, unfortunately, until he can't hold on to it anymore. And he actually almost gets into, I believe, I'm not sure if that's the 09 of Josh Laston. I'll say Josh hitting pit road when that spin happens, unfortunately for Josh. But you can see, unfortunately for the 4 car, was in a pretty dangerous spot, so they opt to throw the yellow there. And so it's going to be a huge break for a handful of drivers here, Steve. Most of all, going to be Nick Degroot, as Charles Teed, Gary Corley, Michael Spell are going to be our top 4, it looks like. And I believe Lucky Dog is going to go to Henry Bennett here in the 007 car. And then I believe Jeff Heisong on back. These guys are going to have to take the wave rounds. We're going to see a lot of wave rounds on the 1 to go.
Some of those guys have to pit, don't they? Because I don't think they had pitted yet.
I believe everybody had topped off, I believe everybody had pitted in time here. Like looking at the front group here, I'm seeing
Oh, they did pit. Never mind.
Yeah. Jeff Heisong, Andrew Wood had just pitted, Yari Brubacher, Jim Brooks. One of the earliest pitters was Thaddeus McMurray on lap 82, but I think he's still good to go to the end as well. I'm going to look at the timing scoring again over on the left side to see kind of where it's all going to... It looks like it's going to go to A.J. Hobson will be the last car, if I'm not mistaken, on the lead lap in the 4 machine. And unless we missed something, Steve, I'm showing Matt still being a lap down after he gets a wave round. So I'm not sure if we missed something out of that 11 car. The pit stop looks like it was a normal 8-second stop. But I'm showing him at 2 down right now in that 11 car. We're going to become 1 down once he gets the wave around.
Yeah, I'm showing him 2 down also. I don't know what happened.
So maybe a pit mistake on the exit or something like that. Unfortunately, I didn't see what happened. But it's going to be a heartbreaker for that 11 car. Was in a great spot all race long, but he's going to see these other guys get back onto the lead lap. But right now, I mean, it's going to be, honestly, if the way it's going to be a pretty short restart here. I see this as being a 4-horse race, basically, Steve. You're going to have Nick Degroot leading it. You're going to have Gary Corley now up into second and started from the pits in that second position. A very mediocre race for Gary. And then you got Michael Spell in a great spot in third. And then Charles Teed, he did some lawn mowing a little earlier tonight. He's been able to get some luck, finally go back his way in that 50 car, move himself up into fourth. And
I think we're going to have some wave rounds here, aren't we?
Yep, everybody sitting in front of that 89 car of Nick Degroot are all going to get back in the lead lap. So lead lap cars are going to go from A.J. Hobson, Thaddeus McMurray, Craig Forsyth, Jim Brooks, Yari Brubacher, Andrew Wood, and Jeff Heisong. All those drivers are going to get their laps back to be back on the lead lap. We mentioned Henry Bennett. He is the lucky dog. He is back on the lead lap. However, he's going to have to restart behind all the lap cars that do not get a wave around. And then, of course, some drivers that maybe were 2 or more laps down, like Matt Wagner, for instance. He's going to be able to get back to 1 lap down. But, of course, we'll still need a break to get back into it. But, again, there are no green-white checkers, though, here, Steve, on the Indy side of things. So the best chance for him, I say, he needs to try to get back in the lead lap, but he's going to have to try to get around Benjamin Combs and Jack Walls to do so. And I'm saying it's going to be in a very short order to be able to do that.
Well, I'm predicting mayhem when this thing goes green and people start to catch up to each other.
It's going to be very interesting because they're going to have some drivers that are relieved. You're going to have some drivers that are very frustrated and are going to try to get everything back quickly. And honestly, if the frustration happens, that's going to put it right into the hands of Nick Degroot, because a quick yellow that could put him in the catbird seat for a win. But again, I mean, he's going to have to compete against some guys that he hasn't raced with a lot tonight. Like, again, Gary Corley, Michael Spell, Charles Teed. He doesn't know what these guys have up their sleeves, possibly, so he doesn't know what kind of moves Gary might be able to make, or Michael or Charles. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these final couple laps go, because we're going to restart this thing with 8 laps to go. Again, that's all if we get this. Saying that's if we get this done under green, but say if we get a yellow, I'd say with about 5 to go, we'll probably wind up finishing this race under caution.
It's just amazing how much that yellow changed the complexion of this race.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be very, and that's, again, I mean, and that was the gamble. When do you make that final pit stop? So these guys, they saved fuel, and it's worked out perfectly for them. So that being said, though, pace car is off. It's going to be Nick Degroot leading the way over Gary Corley, Michael Spell, Charles Teed. Those are the top 4 here. Then got a bunch of cars in between themselves and Henry Bennett, who is in the 5th position. As there goes Nick Degroot, a great restart, able to get some pretty good car lengths over the 8-7 of Gary Corley, as we've got 8 to go here.
Henry Bennett, I could see, is definitely hammered down here.
Yeah, he is making his way up there. He's still got a few more cars to get until he gets to Charles Teed, but not very many more. So for Charles, he's going to have to kind of get the power down here and try to get up to these guys. But right now, Nick Degroot, caution back out. So I think there's a car up against the wall. Oh, it's the 10 of Anders Zar, who's, again, a bad night, gone to worse, unfortunately, for Anders. So we'll see what exactly happened to him, but it's going to bring the yellow out. It's going to be right on the edge if we get a restart here, Steve.
Well, I think that was Matt Wagner and him collided.
Oh, yeah, it was. We'll go back a little bit here to see exactly what happened to the two of them. So it looks like just kind of fighting over the same real estate here. I say Matt was in a spot where he was trying to hustle, I'm sure, to get himself back into that lead lap potential position. But yeah, you can see kind of one moved up a little bit, one came down a little bit. So I'm not sure if I can really say for sure kind of where it instigated, but I think just aggressive driving by the both of them, trying to get all they could there. Unfortunately, Honors, though, is going to get the worst out of that one there as he gets kind of pinned up against the wall here. So we'll jump back live here. As I say, he had to jump to the pit stop. So yeah, this is going to be a night to forget for that number 10 car. Hopefully be able to get him back next week. So we'll jump back live here, though, for Nick Degroot. As he has caught the pace car, we're going to take the yellow, it looks like, with, I believe, 5 to go now, Steve. I think there's a potential we might get either a one-lap shootout or possibly an unofficial green-white checkered here. As it looks like Jack Wall is going to get the lucky dog. He's going to get himself back on the lead lap in that 83 car.
They don't have overtime in this series, right?
That is correct. They do not have overtime. So, and the other thing that's going to happen here, Steve, is within the 10 to go, I believe that the lap cars then have to give way to the lead lap cars. So we're going to have Henry Bennett right on the rear wing of Charles Teed to see if Henry can make some big moves to get from 5th, maybe into a podium position here on this potential final restart. We'll have to see, of course, when that 2 to go comes out to see if we will have an option to get that late restart and kind of have a dash to the finish here.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be enough laps for, since these guys have a single file restart. It's going to be tough to gain spots if it's only 1 or 2 laps, but we know that Henry Bennett he'll be on it. Andrew Wood will be on it. I think those 2 guys are probably the most dangerous to take some spots, but I feel like Nick Degroot is probably safe.
Yeah, Nick's going to be feeling pretty good. He saw he got a great jump over Gary on that last restart. So for Gary, he's going to probably have to kind of adjust a little bit. Okay, this is what I did last time. It didn't work out here. So what do I need to do next time around? As we do not get the 2 to go here, Steve. So next time by will be 3 to go. So I believe what we're going to have here is probably going to be a white flag restart, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Yeah, with the 1 lap shootout, that's yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what it's all gonna have, how it's gonna come down to. But again, the storylines of this race. We've seen pit strategy kind of it worked for some, it hurt others. Nick Degroot, we saw him. He saved fuel in that final run, able to go further than the rest of the guys. And, that caution came out at just the right time for him. Charles Teed, he pitted a lap later, I think, again, trying to go fuel save as well in that 50 car after having some troubles. And that gamble paid off for him. I say he had that slight mistake, which cost him a ton of track position. But then this yellow kind of got everything back into where he has a chance at a great finish as well. So, that just goes to show. With these races, you never know how they're going to shake out, and you do whatever you can to maybe try to go a little bit off sequence. And again, going just 2 laps longer than these other guys, it's going to work out possibly for a great finish for that 50 car. But of course, probably gonna have to get through one more restart here. We'll see if we get that 2 to go, or possibly we'll see if we get the 1 to go here as they cross the line. And lights are off, Steve. It is going to be an unofficial green-white checkered here. We're going to restart this race with 2 to go. If a caution comes out, that will do it. However, if they get to the white flag, from then, it's just whoever can get to that checkered flag first.
And I got to throw a shout out to Gary Corley. Starting 35th in the pits, and he's sitting there in 2nd place, and he's held on to it. And Michael Spell with. The 2 of them have called excellent races.
They've had mediocre races, Steve. I think they could do better. I'm I'm trying not to jinx them.
Oh, okay. I forgot about the Gael curse.
That's right. So even if I'm in the room, I think that curse still exists. So yeah, we'll see what's going to happen here. I say we're going to have a 2-lap shootout basically. I say Nick Degroot, Gary Corley, Charles Teed, Michael Spell. Those are the top 4. Then you got Henry Bennett, Lucky Dog. That last time around, he's able to get back up in the 5th. Now, right in the thick of it. Then again, you got Jeff Hysong, Andrew Wood, Yari Brubacher, Jim Brooks, Craig Forsyth, all in the top 10 as well. Craig Forsyth 2 laps down, back in the top 10 as well, Steve. So a lot of storylines here. But it's all about Nick Degroot here on this restart. What can he do? What kind of reaction can Gary get? As the pace car is in, he is down and away. Another great restart for Nick here. And so you'll see if that's enough breathing room for him to have a clean run to the finish here.
Right now, I'm watching Henry Bennett. This is probably the best battle on the track right now. He's right behind Charles Teed, and I think that's Jeff Hysong right behind him.
Yeah,
he's going around Charles on the outside.
Clears Charles there to say I don't think there was any lifting out of that 007 as we get the white flag. Right now it's Nick Degroot by about half a second over Gary Corley. Saying here comes Henry Bennett. He's going to try to see if he can make a 3rd place happen. Got a great run out of turn number 2. So we'll try to keep an eye on that while we watch our race leader as well. It's going to be Nick Degroot coming out of turn number 4. He is going to get the win here tonight at Kentucky. It's going to be Gary Corley finishing 2nd. Michael Spell 3rd. Henry Bennett able to get back up into that 4th position. Jeff Hysong grabs the top 5. And unfortunately for Charles Teed, he falls back into the 7th position after Andrew Wood gets by him as well. But as you see the fireworks going, it's going to be Nick Degroot here getting the win tonight at Kentucky.
And Gary Corley and Michael Spell were able to hold off Henry Bennett. That's an excellent job by those two.
Yeah, so we're going to get some new voices in the interview here tonight, so that's going to be a lot of fun as well. As you can see, drivers going on around. Say, Nick, he's got some other things in mind here. He's got some burnouts to do.
And he's got the fuel left to do it with.
Yeah, exactly right. He's got plenty of fuel. Well, actually, we'll see. We don't know how light he probably put that car, but say he's going to be a very, very happy driver here tonight to be able to pull that interview with him as you see him celebrating here on the front stretch. I say while we watch him celebrate, let's go over our standings for the final results tonight. It's going to be Nick Degroot over Gary Corley, Michael Spell there in 3rd. Then again, great recoveries by Henry Bennett, Jeff Hysong, Andrew Wood, 4th through 6th. Charles Teed as well, great recovery for 7th. I'm sure not how he wanted to finish those last couple laps, but still it could have been a lot worse. Then you got Yari Brubacher, Jim Brooks, Craig Forsyth rounding out our top 10. Then you got Thaddeus McMurray, AJ Hobson, Jack Walls, Benjamin Combs, Carl Henderson, Matt Wagner, Jimmy Drennan, James Ledford in 18th. And then we have the remainder of the field here is Josh Laston, Don Reedy, Jim Herrick, Anders Arhus, John DeMatteo. Say not the night he was looking for, but he's done definitely be one to watch throughout the rest of the season. And then David Clare in the 24th position. All right, Steve, with that, we got some drivers to talk to.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to jump back here. We're going to start off with that number 88 of Michael Spell. I had to hunt Michael down. There we are. All right, we're going to bring in our 3rd place finisher tonight in that 88 of Michael Spell. Man, we're talking about pit strategy all night long, Michael, and say you, Gary, Nick, you guys ran it long, and I mean that paid off for you in the very end of it. I mean, was that something that you were watching in that final run? Were you thinking fuel mileage all the way, or what was that game plan going into that potential final green flag stop?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking fuel mileage from when we had the first caution, and then when we had a couple more, I was thinking fuel mileage the whole race, and then when those guys started pitting kind of early on that last run, I was kind of wondering. I was like, why wouldn't you stay out and pray for a caution? And I got lucky and got it.
Michael, if you hadn't got a caution, what was your plan for your pit stop?
I was debating. I was talking to Jim on the radio about it. I was like, take tires or not? And he kind of convinced me to go ahead and take them because, he said it'd be loose as hell coming out of the pits. And, I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and take tires because I figured everybody else probably would too.
Yeah, and it seemed like that was those that did pit looked like I think there's only one driver that tried the fuel only strategy, pitting early. I was saying no surprise, I'm sure for you, was Jack Walls in A3 who decided to try to do that short pit, do fuel only because it did save about 4 seconds. But like you said, that I'm sure the tires were probably pretty sketchy on that pit exit. But saying then we have to go to that final restart. Looking in your mirror, you see Henry Bennett. You know what he's done all season long, last year, the year before that. What was going through your mind when you saw that 007 car kind of trying to close up on you there in those final 2 laps?
Yeah, when I looked and I saw Charles and Henry behind me, I was like, oh Lord! And I was talking to Gary on the radio, and I was like, maybe they'll have a little mercy on us. And then on the backstretch, coming the final lap on the backstretch, I look back and I see Henry right behind me. I was like, oh God.
So you did an awesome job. So you're able to hold them off, get that top 3. Say not the highest climber, because let's say the next guy we got to talk to is going to be the one that's going to have that honors. But 13 spots gained tonight, Michael, all the way up into that 3rd. Just awesome job tonight, man. Like I said, it made the strategy work to perfection. So awesome, an awesome result for you, and definitely want to give you the floor here. Any thanks and shouts you'd like to give for that 3rd place tonight?
Yeah, man. I mean, that was an awesome. I got in late into practice, so I didn't get a lot of practice. I only got about 25 minutes, I think. So, I was lucky to get where I was, and yeah, I mean, just kind of emotional. I mean, I lost my dad a couple months ago, and he always watched the races, and I know he'd be thrilled right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there. Yeah, it was always a pleasure and honor knowing your dad was watching these races that you were in, getting podium positions. Like you said, I'm sure very, very proud dad right now at that top 3 for you tonight, Michael. So, but yeah, I mean, just awesome job, man. It's always a pleasure having you here, having you race with us. I think honestly, probably the most committed racer with Area 51. I think you've got the most starts over everybody. So it's always great to see you get these awesome results, man.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. It's good talking to you, and hopefully I'll talk to you again a few times this season.
That's great.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Great job, Michael. Enjoy this one, man.
Yeah, condolences, man. A great run.
Thank you.
All right, and I mean that just shows it right there, Steve. I say it's more than just a game and stuff for fun. It's like there's a lot of stuff going on for everybody. So, like you said, unfortunately, a tough loss for Michael. And I mean, he's right. Every time I would talk to him, every time we got to interview him, he would mention that so his dad would have been watching, and so it's like he was watching it on this one. So, it's definitely going to be a really proud dad. So yeah, so definitely thinking of you, Michael. But awesome job tonight, though, man.
Definitely watching and smiling.
Exactly right. All right, so we got to jump over to our 2nd place finisher here tonight. And if I'm not mistaken, last time we had a chance to talk to this guy, it was under yellow. And I believe I put some commentator's curse on this number 7 of Gary Corley, talking about him avoiding the wrecks, and then it didn't go well afterwards. So tonight, Gary, it was a pretty mediocre race for you. Started from the pits, got the quick caution to get you back up and cycle with the pack, and then 23 spots gained all the way up into 2nd position. I mean, just take us through the race. First off, the pit road start, was that a plan, or is that just maybe a bad something that gone wrong that actually winds up going right for you?
Yeah, man, it actually turned out working out. My computer, right as it was cycling from practice to qualifying, my computer crashed, and I restarted my computer, and I had to reconfigure my wheel and everything. So started from the pits, and as I'm rolling down the pits, I'm looking at the relative, and I know the leaders are approaching turn 3, and I'm like, oh man, I'm dead. I'm going to go a lap down. Just as I got to the end of the pits, the yellow came out, and I was like, thank God. And so I think I started after that yellow. I think I started like 17th because I think a handful of cars pitted, and things fell my way the whole race. I mean, had some battles, fought for some positions, but I mean, I probably only passed like 5 or 6 cars in the entire race. The race came to me. It was just being patient, being careful, and getting lucky on the pit stops. That last pit stop cycle, I had 1.9 laps left to go as I was entering 3, and I was debating on whether I was going to try one more lap, and the yellow came out, and so that was a huge plus, and pulled in right behind Nick, got a quick pit stop. I made a good call on the amount of fuel I took, got out right behind Nick, and the rest is history.
Gary, if it had stayed green, what was your plans for your pit stop?
I was going to go one more lap and I was going to pit.
And were you going to take tires or no?
I would have taken tires, but I would have taken a little less fuel. And, I would have probably cycled back into like 15th. It's kind of, I was running between like 7th and 14th all night, and that's what I was expecting to happen. And when that yellow came out, I was just like, well, the racing gods are on my side tonight.
Well, it was also an excellent strategy call. So
Wow.
That's another way to look at it.
Yeah, let's call it strategy. I'll go with that.
Yeah. And I have to give you credit. I mean, you drove your ass off at the end there, which you had to do because you had Michael Spell and Henry Bennett breathing down your neck.
Oh, when I saw the first restart, I was like, okay, I'll try and see if I can get a run on Nick. But I was more concerned with Spell and Teed behind me. And then we had Drinan between Teed and Bennett. And I'm like, well, at least that's better, And then on the second yellow, when we kind of did the green-white checkered, I saw Bennett pop up. So it was Spell, Teed, and Bennett. And I'm like, oh, my God. But thank God we only have 2 laps to go. But, yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you did an awesome job. I was saying, Steve can vouch. I did absolutely everything in my power to remove any jinxing abilities I had on you tonight, Gary. I learned my lesson from last week, man. So yeah, just awesome job tonight. I say now I can tell you did an awesome job this evening. We're pretty much talking about how mediocre you've been doing all race long up until that end. So I'm glad everything worked out to the end there. But yeah, just a great result for you tonight, man.
Hey man, thank you. Sometimes sometimes the gods look good on you, and that was tonight for me.
Yeah, before we let you go though, sir, we definitely want to give you the floor. Any thanks and shouts you'd like to give for that second place run tonight?
Yeah, obviously I'd like to thank Area 51 and Dark Horse Racing, and they always put on a good show. Looks like we got a good crew to race with this year, and green, white, checkered, you guys always do a great job. The only thing I don't like about racing on Tuesday nights, Gael, is I don't get to race with you.
Yeah, so that is making the tough part on the broadcasting, but luckily, I'll get to bug you tomorrow night at Iowa with Dark Horse, so we'll get some racing in tomorrow night.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Congrats, Gary. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, so that leaves us one person left to talk to. We won't start with the burnouts here. We gotta get to the checker flag here for our race winner in that number 89 car, and that is going to be Nick Degroot here. Wasn't able to get the championship last season, but starting off strong here tonight. And Nick, you started off without having to do a 1,000th of a second photo finish. So starting off the right way and with a little less crazy finishes, but definitely a crazy way to finish this one with the caution timing. Because was the fuel strategy? Was that something you were working on, trying to go longer than everybody else, or what was your thoughts when you saw Henry? Well, not Henry, I should say, because he pitted. He didn't pit on that yellow. But I should say like Andrew and some of those guys pitting when they did. Did that make you maybe flinch a little bit, or were you going to stretch that thing all the way to the end if you could?
First of all, what a blowout! 0.5 of a second. That's got to be my biggest margin of victory. But yeah, on that yellow that came out when Henry and Matt didn't pit, I was just thinking, no, I don't think I could have made it to the end. I was just, I want to top off so that last pit stop is that much quicker, and I thought maybe with fresh tires we could come through the front of the field, but that didn't really work out for us. And when I saw Henry and Matt pit, they are absolutely laying down laps faster than us. And I'm like, okay, my hands are tied here. Do I just stay out and hope for a yellow and then pit and settle for what's probably going to be battle for third or even fourth and see and just deal with that? Or do I pit and try to run with them? But by the time that had happened, they'd already gained full seconds on us. And I'm like, I'm just going to ride it out, see what happens. And when Andrew pit there, I was pitting the very next lap. I was actually slowing out of 4 to turn in when that yellow came out that trapped everybody a lap down. So a couple more seconds after, and I'm in the same boat as Andrew and Henry and Matt and everybody. So that was a lot of luck there that helped me get that lead for that final 10-lap run.
If it had stayed green, what was your plans for your pit stop? I asked everybody else that, so I got to ask you that too.
I love doing this. I wasn't going to take tires. I was just going to top it off with fuel and go out there, and hopefully that put me far enough ahead of Henry and Matt. But I never got to see that come to fruition. It would have been interesting because it would have been close. I may have still come out behind him even without the tires, which would not have been good. But I was just hoping to get in front of him, maybe have that clean air and just kind of drive defensively. But it worked out in the end.
We saw, I forget who it was.
Jack Walls.
Okay, Jack Walls did not take tires, and it was about a 4-second faster pit stop.
Yeah, I only needed, what was it, just like probably 2 seconds of fuel. So I probably would have saved 4 or 5 seconds on that stop. So it would have been real interesting.
Definitely. And I think the biggest difficulty, which Gael mentioned, would have been how the car handled on the apron coming out of the pits on worn tires.
Yeah, gonna need negative weight jacker to survive that because it was going to be very loose, and even with the negative, it was going to be touch and go.
Yeah, I would say it was a wild race from start to finish. I'd say you were definitely in the thick of it all night long. So you and John DiMatteo were fighting hard at the beginning. Say unfortunately he had a bit of a pit mistake, which kind of dropped him down the running order, and then got caught up in some incidents at the end. But it wasn't an easy one tonight. Obviously had to fight for some track position, and like I said, do some fuel strategies to kind of put yourself in that best position. And then of course getting to the point of almost second guessing yourself on what's going to be the right strategy tonight. So I mean, it always takes a little bit of everything to get these wins, and I say when Gary and Michael listen to this interview, they're going to be wishing you were just at maybe a 10th or 2 second quicker, so you would have been at that pit road commit line when that caution came out.
Yeah, it's as simple as this. When me and Andrew were battling after that restart, I ended up just letting him go for the sole reason of I didn't want to lose that lead pack and let him just catch him for us. And it turns out me doing that, because I couldn't get by Andrew after he ended up getting up there and I got up there, which is annoying, but that happening allowed me to save just a little bit more fuel so I could go a lap longer than him. And that was it at the end. You would never think that was going to be the winning move, being able to go 1 lap longer, but still having a pit with 20 to go or whatever it was. So it's weird how these races shake out sometimes, but I don't mind a little luck. I've had plenty of bad luck, as we all have. So it's good to have some good fortune on your side for once.
Absolutely, especially in the first race of the year.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Great way to start. Like I said, winning from the pole, but far from being kind of a cut and dry race for you as well. But yeah, just awesome job though tonight, Nick, getting that win. Like I said, very exciting one from start to finish. So before we let you go and enjoy this one, I know you got plenty of good sponsors and associates that you got to give some thanks and shout outs to here for that win tonight.
Yeah, Factory Back Motorsports. We got some great people, CoveyMoore.com, Motorsport.com, Degroot Automotive, the family business there, U-Haul, Blaze Pods, Wagner's, and of course Cowboy Shed. They're always big backers of us and are on all our cars, and they do a lot of cool stuff. So check out their podcast. It's a good I can't speak. It's a good listen. Also, congrats to Gary there and Michael on the podium. It's very cool to see them up there.
Yeah, so it's definitely an enjoyable podium as well. So like I said, it's always fun to get some of those guys that you don't get to see in those positions week in and week out. So like I said, I'm sure they're gonna be rooting for you to be a little faster next time to maybe be in that position where they restart one too. But yeah, just like I said, it's amazing what little things kind of play outcomes in these races, and you never know how it's going to wind up.
For sure, can't wait for the next one.
All right, so enjoy it, Nick. Great job, man.
Yeah,
thanks.
Great win.
All right, Steve, that's one down, and it's going to be Nick Degroot taking the win. Like I said, just timing of a caution. I mean, and it's not even just the timing of the caution; it's the positioning of where he put his car to try to save that little bit of extra fuel. Just everything, kind of just all those little things added up to being just putting Nick in the exact right place at the right time for that caution, to be able to be in position to win that race. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think like how one slight difference could have completely changed the outcome of this race.
Yeah, no kidding. And I know what it's like to be out there in the thick of it, having to make decisions like that. Do I pit this lap, or do I stretch it as far as I can go? And it's tough, man. It puts your heart rate right up there when you have a shot at winning the race or getting a podium.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, I'm sure there was definitely some pretty big heart rates at the end of that race on that restart for Gary and Michael. Like I said, seeing Henry Bennett chasing them down and knowing what he's able to do week in and week out. But they're going to breathe easy, get that great result for them with those top 3 finishes. But next week, man, it's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be all about track position, pit strategy. It's going to be Dover, 1 mile, very fast track, very difficult to pass. I think that's going to be a big challenge for these guys next week.
Oh, I remember Dover from last season, and it was flat out all the way around, no matter where you put the car on the track. It was really fun to drive, but you're right, it was hard to pass.
It's going to be fun to see, but Steve, loving to have you back again for another season here with us over on Green White Checker TV with Area 51. A little shortened season. You got 11 races instead of the 12. Try to beat the holiday rush. And that way we can get everybody to enjoy their new year before we finish up the season. So a great way to start this one off, and looking forward to the remaining 10 we got.
Same here. It's great to be back with you as well, Gael. Almost ready to run there.
Don't get too fancy here. They're going to expect it week in and week out from us, though. But yeah, so those that watch and support us here on Green White Checker TV, on ESTV, Dark Horse Racing, really appreciate everybody involved in this one. It's always a fun thing to be a part of. Looking forward to it. We'll be back again on Thursday night for the Super Speedway Truck Series. A little bit different over there. Obviously the season kicked off on Sunday and Monday with Max Speed TV with the Super Speedway Xfinity Series, and then the Next Gen Series on Mondays. So Green White Checker TV will be back on Thursday, and we'll be back again Sunday night with the Max Speed TV broadcasting over there as well. So definitely keep an eye out on them as well. It'd be fun to see some new names and faces over with that group as well. But that being said, Steve, as always, a pleasure, sir, and look forward to catching you next week. And those that are watching, have a wonderful evening, and we'll catch you again on Thursday.
Likewise, Gael, and good night, everyone.